Hi everyone, this is Rob from RuinWorks again, here bringing you the second release for August 2023. I know we're in a little bit of September now. As I've noted, I'm going to be off for September, so there won't be any new scenes for the month. The scene here is the Patreon voted scene. This is the Decrepit mine, so it depicts an old mine now abandoned. Now, as you can see from the levels menu up in the top right here, it's a 4-level scene. There's also a bit of a roof, so when the characters are coming in, they can't look right into the scene. It's a 4-level scene. It's got a ground level here, which is the main entrance, followed up by 3 sub-levels, which includes some bridges, some pits, and some shafts. So I'll just kind of run over things quickly. Right now what you're looking at is the scene in its base form, so all the options are turned off. And as I go through the scene, I'll turn them on and show you exactly what they do. So looking at the ground level here, as you can see, there's a roof tile, so this token, when he's at the entrance, can't really see into the scene. But as it gets closer, you can look into the cave. First thing I'll just note is that these support beams are a separate overhead tile, so they will appear over top of characters as the tokens move through. I just thought it'd add a bit of depth to the scene here, so as you can see, the tokens are now moving underneath the supports. Now, if you don't like these overhead tiles, you can just go to your tile tool, tile controls on the left menu, grab the tile and hit delete. Further into the scene here, I'll just note a couple of things from the ground level. On the left here is what I've deemed the supply shaft. This runs all the way down to mines 3 in this location. So this is a big hole that descends the entire scene, as well as on the right here there's another fissure which does descend also down to levels mines 3, and there's also a connection to level mines 1. The main way through the scene for tokens would be down cart track. If a token is close enough, they can use the interaction point simply to descend to the next level. On this level again, there is a tile for the overhead supports. Again, can be deleted if you don't want it. As the tokens come into the scene, the first thing they're going to see is this bridge. Now this bridge has a few options. Number one, you can cycle through all the different images. So there's a more broken version, you can have no bridge, or you can just have this kind of ruined version of the bridge. And for the ruined version, I've also added the option to add fire to it. The main reason I did this was I would imagine if something like goblins or other humanoids have occupied these mines, they might douse the bridge in oil, and then you have the option to light the bridge on fire as your players are walking across it. Now, to dodge the flame, players might not want to run across a flaming bridge. I've also added this narrow walkway around the outside of the big room. This is another way that tokens can get across to the other side if they don't trust the bridge. Of course, this is quite a narrow pathway, so you might want to have balance checks or equivalent to make sure people don't fall off. And to switch off the flames, if you don't want them, you can just hit the toggle again. Next thing to note on this bridge is that there's a bridge trap. So right now it is off. If you turn it on, you'll see this little hashed area open up. If the bridge is off and a token tries to walk across the bridge, nothing happens. But if you then go ahead and turn the bridge trap on, this hashed tile appears, and any token entering that tile will now automatically trigger the trap. So when the token enters in, the GM is sent a message asking whether you want to activate the trap. The game is paused, and it lets you know that you can request saving throws before automating the trap, and it also indicates what will happen when the trap is triggered. It'll say choosing yes will play the sound and switch the bridge image to the broken variation. And it also notes that token elevation will be considered separately. So you can hit yes, the trap is triggered. You can hear the noise, you can see the image underneath is now changed. You can roll saving throws. You can decide if you hit yes, they will be dropped down to level mines 3, which is way at the bottom down here. And if they make their saving throw, you can click no, and instead they stay up here. All the traps are kind of configured in the same way, and you might be hearing that there are dripping noises right now in the background. That's because I've also added in these sound beacons here on the side of the wall. I imagine these cracks here are leaking, seeping water. And to reset the trap, you just hit on again, reconfigures it. If I now put my token back in again, it triggers the trap. This time I'll just demonstrate what happens. So if they fail their saving throw and you want them to be dropped down, you just click yes, and now they're being dropped down to the bottom. So that's mines 3. You can see the token here. And all the way up at the top on mines 1 is where they came from. The next thing I would like to show you guys is the pit trap. It is set up the same way as the bridge trap, where if you're off, nothing will happen when the token walks in the area, but if you hit on the hashed area indicating where the trap triggers is shown to the GM only. These are hidden tiles as well, so I'll just pull this out of the way to show you. If you right click on the tile when it's selected, you can see that it is hidden. So these will not show to the players. These are just here to help the GM understand that the trap is actually active. If a token enters, you're asked if you want to activate trap. You can say yes. A sound plays, and now you can have the token fall into the trap or leave them up top if they make the saving throw. And then once the trap is triggered, the trap area disappears as well. Reactivate it to get the image to show. Now I've turned it off, and I'm just going to show you that if it is off, the token can move easily through here as if there is no trap. Over here at G, there's another similar pit trap. I won't go through it again, it's a smaller one, but it is here. The only difference for this pit trap is that it will take you down to -2, from which they can continue. The first pit trap drops players into this small hole, so there's no real way for them to continue. Another small note is I have placed these transform buttons. When you see this little circle thing, this just means it's a toggle or a cycle button, so it'll cycle through all the options that you have. In this case, it's just this little minecart. It can have ore in it, or it can just be coal or rubble. Just of note, at I here, this is the same fissure, so this is where if you descended one level down the fissure from the ground floor, it's right here. They could come down into this portion and start exploring from -2. This one has the most customization ability. Go through them in order. So J here, this is kind of a forgotten chamber. You either have to come down the supply shaft and enter the room through the left, or you can try entering from room K down this narrow passage. I would imagine this sort of a narrow channel would require some sort of an escape artist, might require people to take off their packs or their armor, even just to climb through. Now here you can see in room J there's this transform button, so if you just click it, it runs through the 3 different options that you can have. So the first option is just an empty cave, the second option is a forgotten fountain, and the third option is a lost treasure. Just a couple of chests here. It's obviously been lost for a while as they are kind of covered in some moss and grime. Moving up to room K, just try to make it consistent. So there's another toppled cart here. So if you click on this, you can remove or add the ore. Further along in room L, there's another transform button. Clicking this will change it from either empty tunnel to one with glowing crystals, or one again with ore that was being mined. And then lastly, for level -2 is room M. This one just allows you to add a camp in case you do have kobolds or goblins or bandits or whatever. You can have a place where they are resting. For this one, and actually for the fountain variation in room J, there is a light that is activated, and there is also a sound beacon that's activated. And if you come down to J for the fountain, there's also a sound beacon, and this one has some dripping water. Again, the exclamation marks here are just elevation changes. They are interaction points for players to double click on, and then they can descend or ascend the ramps that are in these locations. Going down to -3, just going to note that the water is a separate tile, and that's how it is kind of jiggling like it is actually water a little bit. That's got the token magic FX macro distortion applied to it. Here, cracks in the wall, water dribbling out of them. Over here at N, this is where the supply shaft would drop off. And then over here in room O, there's 3 transform buttons. They can all be used or none can be used. They all work together. So you can either have a blank room, you can add bones to the ground as if some beast here had been living here. This is perhaps where they would come to eat their meals. These other 2 both add more of the same crystals just to give you some variation. And then the last thing here, like I normally do, I've placed just this little transform button here to allow the GM the option of continuing the adventure into the Underdark. Perhaps you want to take the players down into the Underdark campaign. How I would probably use it is this is where whatever beast is here came from. They came from the Underdark, found this way in, and that's why the mine is actually decrepit now. The miners dug too deep, some sort of beast has come up from below and is now residing in this area. So yeah, that's the scene. I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. I think it looks pretty good as well. I hope you guys like it.